So this is going to be my review for the Borderlands movie. I just got done watching it about an hour ago before recording this video. This video is not going to be scripted at all. I'm going to just kind of go over my general impressions and what I think. This is going to be completely spoiler free. I'll probably make a video later on going more in detail once the movie's been out a little bit. But this one is going to be spoiler free. So first off, I'm going to just straight up say it. It's very underwhelming. Very underwhelming. I didn't expect too much from this movie, not only because of, I don't think about the cast. I'm not worried about who they casted to play these characters because at the end of the day, I didn't know how they were going to do on the screen and in the movie. I think some of them did a decent job, but overall, there's a few things that were kind of not in tune with Borderlands franchise and kind of the vibe that the games bring. And I think that's my biggest gripe for the movie is it didn't feel Borderlands enough. It wasn't the Borderlands that we know and love, and we'll go into more detail in a little bit. The introduction of the movie, it starts building fairly well, and you get excited, seeing all these iconic locations in the Borderlands series, seeing them on set in a movie. A lot of it was CGI, but there are some amazing set pieces and the environments and, Pandora and places like that. You get excited when you see these areas for the first time and being able to see these different vehicles, these different weapons, in a movie up on the big screen. It's amazing. So the initial build of the movie is, it starts out pretty good. It's slow, but as the movie goes on, the pacing of the movie is extremely stale, and there's not a lot to it. There's not a lot of substance to the story. The character building is pretty poor. You don't really have these emotions. At least I didn't have any of these emotions attached to these characters. A few of the characters get built up more than the others, but at the end of the day, you don't really feel any attachment or any care for these characters like you do in the games, And it's a given because the games are such a big franchise and we've been playing them for years. But with this movie, I don't think there's going to be a sequel. And even if there was, I'll watch it, but I don't honestly think there's going to be one because just the building of this world and the characters was really poorly done. Now, I know there's some controversy going on, about Lilith specifically. I think she did a decent job with playing Lilith. Out of all the characters in the movie, I think I was, more focused on her, but the story really builds on her as a character mainly. Tiny Tina kind of gets built up. Ariana Greenblatt does a decent job of playing Tiny Tina. It wasn't the best, but it was, there were some scenes that were pretty good with her specifically. Tiny Tina, I think, is probably one of the most interesting characters in the movie just because of what they could have done with her. Not saying that she is the most interesting because they didn't do enough, in my opinion. I think that she was very heavily marketed, but the building of her in the movie was not as what I anticipated. And overall, when it comes to the Borderlands franchise, what do you guys think of? You think of looting and shooting. So, there's over 1 billion guns in the Borderlands franchise, Borderlands 3 alone, and they use only a couple weapons. You only see a couple weapons. Sure, there's a scene where you see Marcus's vending machines as well as his stalls for selling weapons, and there's, a decent amount of variety on the table or in the machine, but it's a very brief scene. But when it comes to the weapons that were actually used by the antagonist and the protagonist of the film, they mainly stuck to pistols, and they didn't choose any really interesting guns that are from the franchise. You have the Infinity pistol that everyone knows about that Lilith uses, but at the end of the day, they're really just using, Atlas is using their assault rifles, Roland has his own assault rifle, and then you don't really know the manufacturers because there's not a lot of decent shots and, build up on these weapons that they're using. Tiny Tina has a rocket launcher at one point. We've seen it in the trailer, so that's not really a spoiler, but she doesn't actually fire it. She's just holding it. So the biggest aspects of this franchise doesn't even get utilized to any degree. Not even a single sliver of a degree. Nothing in the franchise is actually utilized. The only thing that I really took away from the movie that I really enjoyed was just seeing the world and the set pieces. But then again, in the movie, they jump from scene to scene. Pandora is such a huge planet, and one scene they're walking, the next scene they're in a completely different area. And then boom, they're jumping back and forth to these different zones, and you're thinking of how massive Pandora is, how massive these planets are. You would think there would be more in between scenes to build up to, going to a new location and then there's a fight or whatever it may be like movies normally do. No, they're just bouncing around this planet, in quick succession. There's not a lot of build up. The story's a little bit all over the place. There's a core element to the story, but at the end of the day, there is a point in the movie, I'm not going to give anything away, but there's a point in the movie where, at least for me, I knew it was over. There's a scene, something happened, and I knew the movie was over from there, and I didn't know how much longer the movie had, but I was extremely underwhelmed at that moment, and I'm like, this has to be like the final, big build up, what the story has been building up to, and then it finally happened, and it was very anticlimactic, and when it happened, I was just very underwhelmed, and I'm like, the movie's gonna be over pretty soon, but I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel like it accomplished anything. Like I said, the character building was subpar. Like, you don't feel anything for any of the characters in the world. A lot of the characters that you would think, these side characters, there's a few little scenes with them. You see Ellie at one point for a few seconds. Moxie was in there for a little bit. There's a lot of side characters that you don't really see all that frequently. They just jump into a scene. So overall, I think it was a pretty bad representation of a video game adaptation, but this is kind of what we're used to seeing with a lot of video game adaptations nowadays. It's kind of not that good. Like, a lot of them haven't been really good. Like Uncharted, even the Halo series, all of that, they're not done well. And I think there's one reason for it. And in my opinion, I get it. Do I agree with it? Not 100%, but I understand why they do this. They don't make these movies for the players who have played their games for so long. They make these movies for a wide audience. Because think of people who don't know anything about Borderlands. If they stuck to how Borderlands is from the games, you're going to be a little bit turned off. Like, all these other people are not going to be attracted to the movie. Now, Fallout was a different story. Fallout was an amazing TV show, and I think they stuck to a lot of the lore of the Fallout franchise. There's a few things that they had to switch up, which is understandable when it comes to the big screen, but for the most part nowadays, video game adaptations are done really poorly, and they're not done for the general public that enjoys the games and the fans. It's done for a wider audience. This video is super brief, but to sum it all up, would I watch it in theaters? Not really. I haven't been to the movie theaters in so long, and I went to the movie theaters for the first time in a very long time to watch this movie, but I would wait until it's streaming. I'd watch it for free. I think the satisfaction is not really going to be there. It's just going to be kind of like a movie that you're like, that was kind of cool, seeing these environments and seeing some of the set pieces and some of the characters and the environments from a gaming franchise that we love. But overall, from a story point of view and from what could be offered, because Borderlands has so much to offer in my opinion, they didn't utilize any of this, and they could have utilized it in an amazing way. Like, the looting and the guns alone, the amount of gunfights, the amount of guns alone, and the amount of gear that could have been utilized for this, and all the tech that is in the Borderlands franchise, and none of it was seen in the movie. It was kind of a shame. But at the end of the day, this is kind of my general opinion. This video was not scripted, so I might be a little bit all over the place. Let me know if you've seen it. If you have, I would love to see and hear your guys' opinions down in the comments below. One good thing about this movie, it sparked a light in me to continue to make Borderlands content. I recently did a poll on the channel. A lot of you guys, stated that you came to my channel for Borderlands content, and that was the inception of my channel with Wonderlands releasing. So I think I'm going to go back to making Borderlands content consistently, strictly, and really focus on it because I do love the game. I love the franchise. I haven't played it in quite some time. And the movie sparked this urge to play it again. So be on the lookout for some playthroughs. I know you guys are waiting for that Moe's episode 2. I think we're going to start over. This is my general review of Borderlands movie. I appreciate you guys for watching the video and watching till the end. And as always, stay happy, stay hyped, and good luck looting. Man, I haven't said that in quite a while.